if you like to hear gist, just don't swipe away. You enjoy this gist. I was just reading the Bible, and I came to Genesis. I think it was Genesis chapter 24, where I was reading, when I read that when Abraham was old, you remember when Abraham was old and he wanted to get a wife for his son Isaac, and he called one of his oldest, servants in his household that he placed in charge of so many things, that he should not take a wife for his son among the people that he lived with at that time, because he was living among the Canaanites. He said he should go back to his hometown where he came from and take a wife for his son. Now, do you know that Abraham did not give a criteria of what the kind of woman, you understand, that he wanted, the servant to get? He just told him that what I want is that go and get a woman from my household where I am staying. But he didn't tell him the criteria that he actually wanted from that woman. Now, the servant that he sent was the oldest in his household, and he trusted him with so many things, maybe because he has seen his wisdom, his knowledge, and all of that. Now, where am I driving this story to? Now, this servant set out, and said, okay, let me do as my master has commanded me. So he set out to go and to deliver or to carry out the instruction given by Abraham, and he went to Abraham's hometown. Now, this is the interesting part. When he got to a particular place, he had entered the hometown of Abraham. One of the prayer that he prayed, let me tell you so that you listen, one of the prayer that he prayed. In Genesis chapter 24 verses 12, he said, "O Lord, God of my master Abraham, please grant me success today and show steadfast love for my master Abraham." He said, "Behold, I am standing by the spring of water, and the daughters of men of the city are coming out to draw water." In verse 14, he said, "Let the young woman to whom I shall say, please let down your jar that I may drink, and who shall also say that drink, and I will also water your camel," because he went with so much camel. And he said, "Let her be the one whom you have appointed for your servant Isaac. By this I shall know that you have shown steadfast love to my master." So before he even finished, that prayer, he saw a lady was just approaching the spring, the well, you understand, and the lady was carrying a jar, to come and fetch water and all of that, because in that place is in the evening that the ladies will come out to fetch water, you understand. If you are following keenly, you discover that he had already made his own criteria, you understand, that based on the fact that if any woman approach him and he begs the woman for water, and the woman gives him that water, right, and the woman also is willing to also feed or give water to the camels, you understand that woman will be somebody that is, he will be thinking that is fit to marry Isaac. So that was where he met Rebecca. And when he saw the woman, he ran to her and said, "Please, can you give me water?" And the lady said, "No problem." The lady went and drew water, you understand, gave it to the servant. He gave it to him. And the lady also said, "I will also fetch so that I will give it to your camel." So when I was reading this place, what came to my mind was that if it was today's generation, or even if from my own generation, and this criteria was what you will use to marry any woman, just forget it. You cannot get. You understand? You cannot just get. And the reason is because they don't send you. The ladies' values is lost, Even to see an elderly person, carrying something these days, and you see a young person collect maybe the bag or whatever the old woman is carrying, is difficult these days to find. The value is lost and all of that. But do you know that criteria was what was used to select Rebecca as Isaac's wife? Because when she saw the servant, she fed the servant with water and fed the camel also. Just that criteria. And then that was all. But in today's generation, if it was that same criteria that Abraham has used to send the servant, they no go get wife for Isaac. Even though where they were coming from, they were rich, you understand. But people look down on people and say, this generation don't even get value. They don't get any of the value, you understand. So the question is, do we still have values again? Do we still have values again? Do we still possess this value? You understand? This value that we are supposed to possess as human beings. You know, or we are, because if you look at your neighborhood today, you look at right, left, and center, there is nothing to actually write home about again. A lot of people are just doing what they want. They see an elderly person, or people will not even bother to even greet. You know, to even greet is difficult now. I hope you have learned from this story that sometimes the value that we have, you know, goes a long way to tell people who we are. You understand? The character that we possess, the how do I put it? Now, I don't even have words to describe this. But again, when you see somebody, the first impression, you know, Rebecca made her first impression, not knowing that it was the prayer point of the servant of Abraham, and she met that criteria, you know.